I think it's just getting too big to get rid of it now.
I think the key is diversity, of course.
Well, I think one of the big reasons, what was always in the back of mind is, will the government, Australia, government, America, whatever, rule them out, just like China did. But they've actually found them very useful to tax.
That's right.
So they're like, no, we'll let them go.
As long as they can make money out of it, they're happy.
Yeah.
Before we start, we need to tell you up front we are not a licensed financial planning, accounting or law firm. This is simply an education program which will give you factual information. We do not give any general or specific advice around finance, business, investing, options trading, or anything else. That is not what this presentation does. Please see a licensed financial planner when it comes to any investment advice you need.
Hey, welcome to, of course, Edge Radio Australia. It's time for the Greater Wealth. Travis Carter in charge of pressing buttons over there, and clearly he's very professional. We're going to go through who we've got on the show. He is special. Again, you look after that part of it. I feel appreciated. Go with that. Maybe. Going around the room, of course, my name's Aaron. Lovely to have your acquaintance. During the show, we'll get people obviously on and get their comments on. I have Richie to my right. Great to see you there, mate.
Great to see you guys too. Thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely our pleasure. Now, the man who this show is basically around, because let's face it, he's got these awesome services there at Blu Sky Factory, educational stuff to get you on to well, basically find your life purpose. Good to see you, my friend.
Great to be here again. Thank you for having me.
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure.
And the travesty.
Okay. And now I've just spoken about pleasure. Now we'll talk about pain. Travis Carter, great to have you here, mate.
Hi.
Hi. Thank you for that. All right, let's jump straight into the show.
Words of wisdom all the way
Words
there.
of wisdom. Oh,
Someone's been messing with my microphone. It's like in a weird spot.
No, jeez. It's,
Not in a good way either.
just leave your stick alone. All right, let's jump straight into the show. We've got some great subjects to talk about. Well, some important stuff. Where are we going to travel first there, Derek?
Let's start with the guru himself, Warren Buffett. Of course, he's regarded as the oracle of the industry.
Right.
He's regarded as the guru of all. He's rumored to be sitting on $278 billion in cash right now.
In cash.
Which is really interesting.
Just a little bit.
He's been offloading a lot of stock. It started with Apple.
It did.
And he's slowly been doing that. And then recently it's been more of Bank of America. He's cut his stake by nearly 15%.
These are big numbers.
These are big numbers. And what's interesting when they do this is, of course, they can't do it all of a sudden.
No.
Right? They have to, because they're whales in the stock market. And if they do, it creates a big splash. If everybody found out that Warren Buffett's now selling, $6 billion worth of stock, it's like, hit the sell button.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
They're not going to get the price they want because liquidity is such a big issue when you're sitting on such a big size.
Sure.
So they've got to drip feed it through. They do it slowly but surely.
Because otherwise you'd be seen as manipulating the market. We would never have that happen, of course. That would never happen. No.
Well, the emotions are very, very strong on Wall Street, right? Greed and fear drive the markets. And of course, the market tends to always overreact. So if there's greed, there's
Sounds like my ex-wife.
What's that?
Sounds like my ex-wife.
If there's fear, it's sell. And of course, its reaction it's kind of smooths out after a while.
No.
But yeah, he's been doing this. Now, there's a lot of speculation as to what does he know? Why is he doing this? Why is he slowly getting rid of Bank of America? Why is he slowly getting rid of Apple? And of course, it always comes up in those rumors, does he know about a stock market crash and is sitting on the sidelines to basically let it crash and then go back in and gobble it all up? Is that what's going on? And there's
something going on in November. I don't know if you've noticed, but something in America is happening. It's rather big.
Some little events happening.
Yeah, a little event. Yeah, we'll call it a little. Yeah. And it might just change the stock market a touch.
That's a great point too, because there is that side of it. And of course, the Democrats don't want the market to crash before the election.
No,
that would look really bad. They've already got a PR issue at the moment.
Oh,
they don't want further things like that crashing, because it just plays into the hand of Trump, who goes, well, what do you guys know about the economy? On the flip side of that, there have been rumors floating around on social media that they'll want to crash it after Trump gets in to make him look bad.
Sure.
So how substantiated those rumors are, they're interesting to keep in the back idea. As I always say, these are the opportunities where people can, if they know what they're doing, can make a lot of money.
Of course,
when the market's crashing.
Yeah.
We made a lot of money back in March of 2020 when the market crashed, and that's always a funny position to be in when everybody's hitting panic button and you're cleaning up. It's a smart way to do it, in my opinion. And I think it's interesting to see Berkshire is saying basically we're going to sit on the sidelines. We're not seeing anything we want to buy yet. It's just a case of when there's an opportunity, there's an opportunity. Well, obviously that's saying quite a lot. We're going to hold tight. And what I do teach in my trading course is that basically not having a trade on is actually a trade.
Oh, that's a curious way of looking at it. Okay.
Because it's protecting capital, and it's all about that. And so if they're nervous about what's going on, that's actually what we will define that as a trade.
I'll give you just an observation in terms of preserving capital. I don't know if you're following the gold price as well.
Yes.
I saw last week JP Morgan put out an announcement to their professional investors to start allocating into gold. So we know that when there's allocations to gold, there's always a bit of a sign that something might be coming.
No doubt about it.
It's a great point. Yeah. And the central banks have been gobbling it up for years.
That's right.
There's been an acceleration of that, though, as far as
I think the fiat Ponzi scheme is starting to, the emperor's no clothes is starting to play out, isn't it?
Very, very true.
But you've also got to take into account when you start looking on the political side of things as well. Don't forget that you've got a rising power in the BRICS nations as well, which for about 3 or 4 years now have been massively buying gold reserves.
That's right.
Well, and you've got countries like New Zealand who have sold all their gold, so they've got none.
And what they're doing is going back to gold standard. That's what Putin did in Russia when he had to protect the ruble from crashing because he couldn't trade with it all of a sudden when they locked him out of SWIFT. It's like, well, what do I do with this ruble? And everybody's trying to dump it, going, look, we don't want it because they can't trade with it, right?
Yeah.
So he's going, right, it's on the gold standard, bang.
Well, look,
Zimbabwe's done the same.
Right. I mean, I am no expert, but to my mind, the petrodollar, there's got to be a crash. Okay, honestly, when you see that, okay, now 3/4 of the world have signed on with BRICS. You see all of that going on. You see the fact that America just keeps printing money hand over fist, forgetting about, inflation. To me, I don't know. And when you see so many other countries now trading their energy as BRICS nations with different currencies, petrodollar to me, I can't see it. I cannot see it maintaining its position as the leader, as the center of things.
We've thought of things like that for many years, but the old saying, the market can remain irrational longer than you can remain solvent. There's a lot of things what America does in terms of the markets. The Fed, they buy stocks. They do a lot of things to help support the US dollar as well. Timing is always going to be a hard one, but I guess you've got to be positioned, like you were saying before, for protection, for be ready when it does happen.
So opportunities,
opportunity. That's right, because it is going to be a wealth transfer, and things like gold, precious metals, and other assets can be like that bridge to the next system. You know what I mean, and ensure that you don't get wiped out.
So one thing you've also got to remember, like for example, Australia primary export is iron, mining, a few horticultural things like wool, wheat, stuff like that. But when you have a look at what America's #1 export is, it's actually money.
Right.
So 80% of America's money isn't in America. So many countries are so tied to the US dollar, having that transfer from, let's say, BRICS or India, China, or another country becomes the reserve currency. It's not going to happen overnight. This is a Pantene moment. It's going to take a long time. I reckon it'll probably take a couple of decades.
One indicator, though, also is obviously the inflation. We can see inflation's going out of control around the world. When you get to that traditional old like hockey stick moment of runaway inflation, like they had in Zimbabwe and all of those other countries, you'll see a lot of that US money that's around the world will come back to the US, right? To come back, and then you'll see a perpetual rise in prices. That'll be a very strong signal that we're pretty much at the end of the fiat.
I actually thought that America's main export these days was pronouns.
Or weapons. Weaponizing pronouns.
Exactly. Now, I see people, obviously we can only see one feed here, but those who are jumping on board on whatever feed that you're on there, feel free to jump in. We'd love to see your comments or questions. It would be fantastic to answer those as we go.
The other one that just on that one, talking about the reserve currencies and all that stuff, with Buffett taking his money out, and apparently there's a couple of others that have done it as well. I'm wondering if they're gearing up to go to the reserve, to a digital currency.
Yeah.
Are they intentionally tanking the US dollar on the transfer?
Could be. I did hear a lot of people saying, that Trump's against the digital currency, CBDC. So I think that might not be the avenue they'll go through to try and save the dollar. They might instead, which they've talked about in Congress, is introducing a crypto dollar backed through the banks, using like JP Morgan and them creating their own digital currencies rather than the Fed doing it themselves. As a way to usher in CBDCs as well. So.
Well, you've got to remember a couple of weeks ago, we showed the Bitcoin 2024 conference, and they were saying there they had proposed legislation that America owns 5% of Bitcoin as a hedge against inflation. And certainly Trump has been sounding the trumpet, no pun intended, to be the leader in the development of cryptocurrencies within there. Because if they control cryptocurrency and its development and mining, then they have, of course, effectively the petrodollar in a crypto form. I think that's their next strategic move. I think that's where Trump's going.
To gain security for it?
Yeah. I don't think security, I think it's control.
Sorry?
Yeah, I don't think it's the security for the US dollar. I think it's control for the next currency they're coming through.
Yeah, it's hedging against that and that change, because if you want to be at the forefront, you've got to be able to develop that. There's an old rule in banking, in central banking, that he who controls the currency has power.
Yes.
So that's what's the thing at play. Who owns the most of these cryptos? Who's mining the most? Who can gear up? And we're seeing Russia on the other side legalizing the fact that you can mine crypto now and moving in that space, because it's doing transactions in crypto, because how else, if it's locked out of SWIFT, how's it going to interact with other nations?
Yeah, very, very true. Okay.
I still think crypto's not be the cash of the digital world.
Yeah,
you think it is, or it isn't?
I think it will be.
It will be.
So I think they'll try to control like the central bank digital currencies and all those standard ones like Bitcoin as well. I think currencies like Ethereum, and there'll be a few others that will come up along the markets. They're going to be the decentralized currencies, the ones that effectively will be the cash.
Yeah, I'm still always in two minds about the other cryptos and that. I just think it is a freedom aspect to it, but there's also a dragnet aspect to it. I kind of think they let the last 10 years happen. A lot of people get rich to get used to the idea of a digital money system,
exactly,
right? And then pull the rug later.
Yep.
So there's other things in terms of there's privacy coins as well, which is another avenue about privacy.
Yep.
They're dead against that. But yeah, in the meantime, it's definitely a source of asset protection. Put it that way.
I think people need to learn about it. I think it's just getting too big to get rid of it now.
I think the key is diversity. Of course.
Well, I think one of the big reasons, what was always in the back of my mind is, will the government, Australia, government, America, whatever, rule them out, just like China did. But they've actually found them very useful to tax.
That's right.
So they're like, no, we'll let them go.
As long as they can make money out of it, they're happy. Yeah. It's actually funny. I was a little side note on this one. I was at an event, in fact, you were there too, funny enough, just the other night. We're chatting to people, and it was actually a couple of people I had no idea were followers and watched the show religiously. And in fact, I was actually talking to someone yesterday who was also explaining. So for those people who are sitting there in the background and watching the show, make some comments. Love to hear your questions. But it's quite interesting. I didn't realize people that might not be, wouldn't be at the front of my mind when I'm thinking about finance, really do enjoy the show. And I think that maybe it's the link, to finding your life purpose and so forth. So, I really thank you for that, mate.
Oh, thank you. No, I was really inspired by someone's. I was really inspired. I thought we had a technical issue there.
Yeah. It's called Travis.
I was really inspired by someone's comment the other week, and said, you guys give me hope. Now I thought I'm a little bit. I don't take on feedback too much, because I know for every compliment there's often an abuse, right? So don't take it too much to heart. But I thought, that's a comment that someone is not criticized, that you give me hope. And I think that's really important to understand as we're going through these changes right now. These are big deal that we're talking about, right? And we've talked about CBDCs. We've talked about, there is a lot of fear that can be attached to that. And it's losing the fear. It's not being motivated by fear. Fear is the thing. If you're motivated by fear, you're like all the punters on Wall Street who are motivated by greed and fear.
Yep.
It's a case of being detached from that and going, I need wisdom here. I need wisdom. This is why we call it the greater wealth. I need wisdom in terms of what decisions to make.
Sure.
How can I detach the emotions from the process? And then, but more importantly, how does it tie into my life purpose? What am I really meant to be doing on this life? And I think that's so important. And remembering, guys, that for all the fear that's out there at the moment, there is so much opportunity.
Oh, thoroughly.
It's so exciting. We're in a really fascinating time of history.
Well, I'm interested to find out, Richie's thoughts on that, mate. With everything that is changing, do you move forward in life with fear, or do you see opportunity, or do you see change? Well, you tell me.
Yeah, I don't buy into the fear narrative, because I'm of the belief, you create the future you want to see, right?
So true.
So we have to, like steal a phrase from PBD, the future looks bright. We have to keep that when we're in the back of our minds.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Every day, because it's just human collective. The more negative energy begets more negative energy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, that's what I just strive to do every day. Just go out there to try and bring some positive, make some kind of positive change, amplify voices.
Sure.
Things like people are definitely trying to do something good. So yeah.
So one thing I do want to throw on top of that one is most people fear something because they don't understand it. It's a strange thing. It's like they're self-preservation pretty much. Okay. And I find the finance markets, the stock market, housing markets, all these different markets are exactly the same. Even when you go through and you have a look at the political side of things, people don't like politics because they don't understand it and they get scared of it. They try to walk away. They put their head in the sand. They ignore it. But politics, like finance, controls everything you do. If you got money, you can do whatever you want. If you don't, you can't.
It does buy you freedom.
So, and I think it was you that said it was happy tickets.
Yes.
Yeah.
The more money you've got, the more happy tickets you have. So yeah, obviously it doesn't bring freedom. It brings absolutely amazing happiness. But the point I'm making here is, just like with politics, to stop that fear, you've got to understand it. You've got to train yourself. And there's a lot of government interference trying to stop people from understanding it, especially in the schooling systems. So I think that's one of the reasons why people like this show so much, is because we are brave enough to talk about what the like mainstream media and other people don't want to talk about. So we are bringing that education to people to give them the ability to go, you know what, this isn't a scary situation. This is what's going to happen.
Yep.
And these are the steps I can take to either A, preserve myself, or B, make a lot of money out of it.
It's a great point. And if you can think of it as a game, I think that really helps as well in terms of finance. So when I used to do radio full time, I used to go into a shift and think, all right, because you have to stay very self-motivated when you're in a padded room talking to yourself all the time.
You
right?
do. You really do.
Keep it interesting.
There's a reason why the room's padded.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. Okay.
And so I kind of treat it like, if it was a computer game, I'm going into my later score, right?
Yeah.
I kind of find that kind of mindset when it comes to finance helps me stay very balanced.
Okay.
Because it keeps the fun element in it for me. And therefore you go, oh, this didn't work out the way I wanted to. Okay, how do I fix this? How do I get around this? Can I go through it, over it, under it, around it? How am I going to get through this hurdle right now?
Thoroughly agree.
And that's business.
It is.
In anything.
Also mastering your emotional state too, because I found because I did before COVID and first part doing trading and things like that, learning about trading and other things. The number one before you do any trading is the emotional aspect. You have to understand emotion, fear and greed. When you go and when you're playing the markets, because that's the big element in the markets. And when I study the charts, you can see I've been able to discover human emotion in the charts. You can see it, right? And those who don't understand it, unfortunately, lose. And it's definitely a wind in your sails if you can understand the emotion side of it.
But hang on. But Richie, you're so laid back. You made Bob Marley look highly strung. Okay, now come on.
It's definitely a learning process. I'm not going to lie. There was times in the beginning, where emotion did take over. But it's just practice and learning, and like you're saying, with the knowledge and learning, you'll improve. So.
We're human. There are moments where we're human.
The best thing I ever learned to do is turn my phone off, put my phone down, and walk out of the house. Just walk to the end of the street, and by the time you get back again, like you've gone past that adrenaline rush, your hands have stopped shaking by the time you get back, and then you can right, I'll turn the phone back on, I'll have a look at what's going on, I'll read the news again, and I'll look at it with a fresh set of eyes.
Funny story on that. One time I was trading with a particular person who you guys have had on the show before.
Right.
And it was like 4 in the morning.
Right.
And
I definitely know who this is. There you go.
So was it Pinot or champagne?
So we're at my house. We at that time were living up in the hills, had a beautiful view of the city and this sort of stuff. And we're living in this old house up there. And I had this one room dedicated for my little office. So we hop outside at 4 in the morning, kind of like take a breather from the markets for a bit. And I left my wallet on the table. and the keys and everything like that. And we stepped out, and this old door Jimmy locked outside. And we could see the markets on the computer screen. We could see what's going on and going, and we can't get back into the house. So my then pregnant wife, very pregnant wife, was fast asleep, and we had to wake her up at like 4:30 in the morning, and she wouldn't stir for a while because she thought it was the possums in the roof mucking around. Finally, she gets up. We go, what are you guys doing here? But
that's murmurs of the market. Those noises.
When you got 6-digit figures on the market, you're locked out, and you're going, you got the keys?
No, like literally locked out.
They're on the desk there.
You know what? A window's not that expensive.
No, let me go straight through that one. Oh wow.